Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode. This is the Good Bit podcast, and we are coming to you live from 3 different locations this week. I'm in my usual studio, nothing's changed there. But my good close personal friend and co-host Aaron has actually moved country, ladies and gents. He is no longer in Perth. He is back down in London, baby. And we'll touch on that as we get going. But we're also joined for the first time ever on the Good Bit. My God, it is a long time coming, my friend. Andrew Marley, you're in the room, you're in the call, you're on the podcast. How are you, my good friend?
I am excited and glad to be here. It has been a long time coming, but boy, am I glad.
I swear to God, right, I've never sat and went, you know who will never be on the podcast? I'm telling you this right now, Andrew Marley will never be on the podcast. I've never had that conversation with myself. For some reason, we've just never done it, but I'm very glad you're here now.
I know why we have done it.
Go on then.
Because in the heyday of the Good Bit, in our golden era, before the breakthrough moment, Andrew Marley hadn't been to a cinema in about, I think you said, 8 years.
That's true. I wasn't an avid film watcher, to say the least, until a young Aaron walked into my life and walked me out of that college straight to Cineworld.
All right, so let's talk about that then. You kind of mentioned it last week, Aaron. How did the process go of revitalising the passion and getting Andrew back into the cinema?
Listen, it was an organic process. It just so happened that me and Andrew had a collective afternoon off our hit show DNA, which we were rehearsing at the time.
Right, we should make clear as well, the three of us studied together. We go way back,
Go way back. So we had a break in our schedule. I think we is that right? Is that correct, Andrew? Am I remembering that?
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Yeah.
I think we went to the Vulcan.
Oh,
I remember correctly.
Throwback.
Of course we did. Yes, we did.
And then we headed straight to Glasgow Queen Street. Did not pass go, straight to Cineworld. The first film that was on, Andrew said, I haven't been to the cinema. I said, this thing, the cinema, is a brilliant thing. I'll show you what it is. I'll also show you Meryl Streep.
Who?
Who?
Andrew asked?
Exactly.
Meryl who?
I said, Meryl, you just wait. And then we went in, and Florence Foster Jenkins happened to us both. And I'll let Andrew take it from there.
I mean, it touched me in many, many ways. It was just, I absolutely loved it. And, it's probably not the best film ever, but see just the whole experience. I just going to the cinema, and anytime I had been, I was young, or it was some kids movie, or you're there with your family, but see just being out with one of your friends, and you're just, the big screen and the music starts, and it was just a stupid film, but it had real moments of sincerity, and it just kind of worked.
Yeah,
and then it got nominated for some sort of Oscar.
That's only I've never seen the film, but that's the only thing I can remember is seeing it at the Oscars and looking at it on my phone, being like, what are the Oscar nominations this year or whatever? And then Florence Foster Jenkins came up, and Andy, you were like, oh my God, my favourite film.
Yeah, because I didn't know anything else that was nominated. All these films that everyone else in the college was talking about, and I'm just like, yeah, but have you seen Florence Foster Jenkins? Because I have. Because
I have. So when Aaron said this is Meryl Streep, did you actually say who? Did you not know who Meryl Streep was?
Honestly, yeah, I didn't really know. I had obviously heard of her, but I don't think I had seen any of her films.
But sometimes that happens though. It's not maybe if you don't know a celebrity, but things like films and TV shows and stuff. There's these classics that go by, and then after years and years just pass, and you're I've still not seen that or whatever. People talk about things as if it's legendary. Whatever. Game of Thrones, for example, I've never watched Game of Thrones, and maybe at the time I should have watched it and stuff. But when it was on, everybody was talking about it. Whereas now, I'm a couple of years after it's finished, and I'm like, yep, I never saw Game of Thrones, and folk will freak out about that. They'll be like, what do you mean you never seen that? But sometimes it just happens, something passes you by, or a celebrity. You haven't seen any of their work or whatever, you know what I mean? Sometimes that can happen.
And that honestly sparked my love for Meryl Streep. I am in love with the woman now. I
Seriously?
am in awe with her. Yeah, now I've seen her in quite a few things. I mean, as many of you know, I'm an avid musical fan myself.
Yes.
So seeing her saying like The Prom and Mamma Mia and just stuff like that, even Florence Foster Jenkins, she gives us a wee tune or two. It might not always be in tune, but like, and just kind of reading a wee bit more up on her and her stories and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, she's amazing. Like really, really good.
Aaron, where did your fascination for Meryl come from?
I think someone told me that she was a very intense, not method actor, but like she like gives her all to her performances. And I think it was at the time where I was discovering what acting was. And so I think I watched Mamma Mia and I was like,
Right.
oh, obviously she's amazing because she does all this work. And then I just sort of, I don't know, I think I get obsessed from there. I can't remember. August Osage County. I think that was the performance.
Yeah, she's really good in that. Like, I hadn't seen that ever, and then you told me it was one of your favorite films of all time, and I was like, "Well, that's a bold statement."
It was at the time. It probably isn't, because I've sort of learnt to see the difference between performances and films. If you know what I'm saying.
Maybe absolutely.
It's one of my favorite performances of all time. That's for sure.
Right. I recently watched it, and I thought it was really good, but not good enough to be like, oh my god! But she was good enough to be that kind of blown away kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you're right there, man. You're right there. Yes. So tell me about that experience then, because last week on the Shutter Island episode of The Good Bit, we were talking about if Aaron raised the point where, like, if we were to go to see Shutter Island in 2010 with our current like state of mind and our current attitude towards films and stuff, it might have like totally blown us away, and it might have become one of our favorite films of all time. But we didn't have that because we just watched it in the house. Same with Inception and other films we've watched this year on The Good Bit. So tell me about that like experience when you went to see Florence Foster Jenkins, because surely like it's now because of that experience that it's got a soft spot in your hearts, you know?
Well, yeah. When I think of the film now, my memory is not just of the images of the film. It is also of like a chocolate brownie at the Vulcan, and that is what flashes into my head, and that is a warm and fuzzy feeling. And it's also of a sunny day off in Glasgow, you know, a wee break from very traumatic experience for us both, which was DNA. Like all those memories like come to one when I think of the film. So I have more of a, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think of. I don't know if you remember this, but after the film, we were contemplating actually going to see another film.
No, really?
Yeah, you were like that. I was like, oh my god, that was amazing! Like, I love that. And you're like, right,
let's go again.
What's on next? And there wasn't really anything. And we went to the Sainsbury's in Buchanan Street, and we bought an ice cream, and we sat on the steps of the Royal Exchange. Like, you know how the steps up to, what is it, the Royal Concert Hall or something?
The Concert Hall, yeah.
And we just sat there and we just chatted for ages and just looking out down Buchanan Street in the sun and stuff. And that like, for me, it was the whole experience of the day. And that's why Florence Foster Jenkins will always have a place in my heart.
Beautiful. I love stories like that. That was good. I just wish I was there. I wish I was there. I was obviously doing another show, but it wasn't as good as DNA, of course.
It absolutely wasn't. The one-act wonder.
One-act wonder.
So, listen, I thought it was good. I thought the 2 years were fantastic.
Listen, I'm not going to slam something on public domain. You know, DNA. I'll be political about it. It was a formative experience.
Right.
How about that?
And now you are a professional actor, and you can look back at your shows that you've done, and you can look at that one and be like, "Oh, that's one of the ones that started it all."
Exactly. But to be honest, of the whole entire process, that was the best part. Having a break and going to see
the day off
and having some ice cream. That sounds good. Well, listen, I wish that we could get back to cinemas so we could have moments like that.
I know, exactly. That's what I'm thinking about. Like, and now when I think of Shutter Island, I just think of the film, and I think of sitting in the dark on my own in the living room watching a film. You don't think of what surrounds it because it has nothing to do. Like, it has nothing to do with you watching the film. You go have a really nice cup of tea, and I don't know, you know, before the film, and maybe that's a bit nice. But you don't think of that because it's nothing to do. When you're on an excursion and you go out preferably with somebody, the whole day encapsulates your memory of the film. My opinion.
No, beautifully said. And I don't know if you can think of anything right now. I know I'm going to put you on the spot here, but this is a question to you both. Have you got any other like experiences of going to see films that really stand out that you could tell us about? Like, even if it's just like a funny moment, or if it was like a nice moment with like friends or family or something, that would be something that's interesting.
I mean, we talk about the Hateful Eight a lot. I don't know if you've heard about that, Andrew. Me, Chris, and Ewan went to see the Hateful Eight at a posh cinema because they weren't doing it
that
at
was a fun one.
Cineworld, and that was our first Tarantino at the cinema. You know, one of these. We all got posh, cokes in bottles.
Cokes, posh cokes. Yes, we sat on couches and stuff. That was a good one.
Wow.
I can think of. I've told you this before. When I went to see I, Tonya.
Oh,
You know that film with Margot Robbie, the ice skating film?
Yeah, I seen that in the cinema.
Really good film, and she's brilliant in it. We were sitting there, and there's this moment where it's like she's hated by the press, and she's going to do this like amazing skating performance, and then she's getting like the opinions and the reviews from the judges about her performance, and there's like a really like slow close up into her face and stuff, and it's that moment in the film where like you're getting really tense, and you're like gripping the sides of your chair, and you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen here? And then someone had a full-on heart attack, like in the seat in front of me.
Oh, you have not told me this.
I certainly have. I definitely have.
Well, what are you talking about?
Someone just has a whole heart attack.
A whole heart attack?
Not funny.
Not even a wee bit?
It's not funny. Not even a wee bit of a heart attack. It's not funny. We're laughing, but it's not funny.
Well, they're a bit a kind of happy ending, or do you not know?
Don't know. The guy...
Oh, for God's sake.
He's in the seat. Luckily, he was on an aisle seat. And he just starts like shaking and freaking out and stuff. And the person that he's with stands up and like grabs him and like kind of slams him round, but gently, and puts him on the floor, and starts like doing the whole like CPR thing. And the film is just continuing on. We're all just sitting watching the film, like this really intense moment in the film. Like it'd be different if it was like, aye. It'd be different if it was a different moment of the film, but it was just like the most intense, like built up moment.
So you've got half an eye on this guy dying and half an eye on the film because you're like, oh, but it's really good.
I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Oh,
and the person stands up, and not the person had the heart attack, the person that they're with stands up and just starts shouting in the cinema, is there a medical person in? Is there a medical person here? Not like a nurse or a doctor or whatever, they're looking for a medical person. Hopefully someone is there, and just it's met with silence. Like no one does anything. Other than one girl that was in the back row just runs out, assumingly to go and get a member of staff and get help. And the film just keeps going. They don't stop the film. Like maybe I think there was like 10 minutes left of the film. The people come in, like the staff come in, they help the guy out. As soon as the guy leaves the cinema, the credits roll, we all stand up and just leave as if nothing happened. That's probably that's a memorable cinema experience. But I can say it did not make I, Tonya one of my favourite films ever.
I can't imagine it would. Jesus.
Yeah. Any heart attacks like that, Andrew? Or
I mean, no, I was just going to say, remember that time I met you at the cinema when I went to see The Greatest Showman? But no, nothing. No, I suppose one of my most memorable, the most memorable I would say is Florence Foster Jenkins for me, because that was kind of the first time that I would say I've really been to the cinema.
Totally, yeah.
But then a couple of months after it, or probably a year, I don't know my timings, but we went, my first experience of 4DX.
Oh, wow.
And I went to see that Triple X and 4DX, and then I went to see it and 4DX as well, and it was just... It was just a really crazy experience, you know, because I was there with quite a lot of people. I was there with a few people from college, and it was just like, what is this thing? Like, this is really weird. But
4DX is a brilliant invention. You know what I mean? If you pick the right film, it's going to be brilliant. I can imagine Triple X and it were particularly violent with 4DX, or was it all right?
Oh no, Triple X was mental. I felt like I was on a roller coaster because it was like it was like parkour constantly and skate. It was just made. It was literally made for 3D and 4DX. Like it was just crazy. But yeah, it was one of those interesting experiences. I wouldn't say I massively enjoyed it. Like I'd say it would seriously take away from the quality of the film, but it really enhances the experience. So.
Totally. And sometimes if you're going to see a film that might not have like this great storyline or these great performers in it and stuff, sometimes it can help it because it's like, oh, that was a fun experience or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it does take away from it sometimes. I saw Frozen 2 in 4DX and it was brilliant. It was brilliant because it was like Elsa's like gliding over the water and like your chair's moving and it feels as if you're flying with her. So, but then it was Baltic. So many like good moments like that. I can remember when we went to see 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I was about to bring that up. That
Go
was
on,
that
tell
was
me about it.
that was an absolute. Yes, I have such a memory of that film because
I mean, the film gets slammed, and I don't even
I
know
can't
why.
really
because
remember
what
the
we
film.
We had a brilliant time.
Well, because it was just like kind of scary and jumpy, but not too scary. So we were just getting
Right.
scared. There was a big group of us together, and I was just getting scared and holding Ross Brody's hand, jumping at my
Sure,
feet.
sure. Ross Brody had his feet off, his shoes off. He had his feet
He had
out.
his toes out, and we were just absolutely like howling, just like it was hilarious because every
Yeah.
3 minutes, like one of us would go, "Wah!"
For no reason. We just
For
looked
no
at each other.
reason.
We were more looking for each other to shout and jump than anything else.
Can't remember the film at all, but I'd say I love that film.
Yeah, me too. John Goodman's in it. I think he does a good job. And the other actors, I can't even remember their names. That's what we're talking about.
Doesn't
here.
matter. We had a great time.
We had a great time. Well, listen, it's just us sitting here thinking back to the cinema days and looking forward to them.
Yeah.
Because we've got the Oscars coming up very soon. It's on the 25th of this month. And it's the first year since I started drama college back in 2015 that I have not seen any of the best pictures. I've not seen any of the best directors or anything
No.
because they've all been films that have either been released in cinemas and we've not been able to get to them, or they're all streaming services films.
Yeah.
Which, you know, when you look at it by the book, you'd imagine like, okay, well, that means it's easier to watch them all. But it's just not been. Like, I just haven't watched them. Usually when they're at the cinema, because I had my routine where I'd go every week and stuff with my cinema card and stuff, I'd be like, right, what's on this week? Oh, it's one of the best picture films. Brilliant. And we'll go and watch it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like you need to kind of go out your way to watch it and it's just not happening. So I'm going to try and catch up, watch a few of them anyway, because I like to know what's going on and stuff. And I like to watch the films as well because it's a good time to get those films watched, you know, because when are you ever going to go back to some of these films? Like films like Moonlight and Parasite and stuff, the one best picture. Like, I don't know if I'd ever go back to them, but I saw them because it was Oscar season and it was coming up, you know, so
Yeah.
I'm going to try and watch a few of them this week and hopefully have an idea about the films that are nominated and stuff. Andrew, what about in terms of like your favourite films ever? Because this is the first time you've been on the Good Bit and stuff. Do you have memories of like watching films when you were younger, or do you have like a favourite movie that you would say is your number one all-time favourite?
Oh, I really don't know. Like,
It's a tough question. It's a very broad question.
yeah, a very broad question. I mean, there's certain films that I would say is definitely memorable. Probably just for like evoking emotion. I would say The Green Mile. Like, and I'm an absolute sucker for Tom Hanks. Like, I absolutely love Tom Hanks. And I would say like The Green Mile for me is just one of those films where I was actually crying at the end, and I was like, oh, that's really had an impact on me. And I quite like that, the fact that it did that. But yeah, I love anything like from stupid humour to like your Dumb and Dumbers and your Step Brothers all the way straight through to your
Totally
Shawshank Redemption and Schindler's List. Like, yeah. So I wouldn't say I have a favourite, but
right.
I just.
Yeah, it's good to have a variety. That's me. Like, my list is totally all over the place as well. Same with my music, actually. Like, I don't have a certain favourite type of genre of music, really. I just like listen to whatever in terms of films and TV shows and stuff. I'll just watch whatever. So it's good to kind of have a variety, especially because you never know what mood you're going to be in. No, you never know what mood you're going to be in. You might be wanting a horror, you know, but maybe not us. But you might be wanting a thriller or a comedy or something. I don't know.
Horror's not my genre, not at all.
It's not ours. It's
I'm
not
glad
ours.
we agree on that.
I just find that I've not seen a good horror, and maybe I'm watching the wrong horrors. But like Shutter Island last week, I would call that a thriller, like a psychological, like, and I quite like that concept. But like, see, that was it Hereditary, and
I never saw it, but I got a lot of buzz.
Oh man, like, and I seen people going, "This is the greatest thing ever." I burst out laughing during watching it in the cinema, and Dominic like gave me into trouble. He's like, "Shh," and I was like, "But it's funny. Like, it's pure stupid."
Dominic quite liked that film, but he likes that kind of style as well, doesn't he? Dominic, he likes like his favourite movie of all time is The Shallows, which I think it's a brilliant choice.
That's
we did an episode with Dominic called Movies on Water, and it was all about like films that have like some like a pond in it. Although the characters go swimming, and that was a lot of fun. That was good. I didn't know there was so many films with sharks in them and stuff. So that's way back in the archives of the Good Bit back in the day. But I mean, you said before, Aaron, like back in the golden age. I'd argue this is the golden age.
This is the new golden age. This is season 2, season 1. I'll say season 1's golden age. has to be that
Right.
period of like 2016.
16, 17, yeah,
we were
absolutely.
just young bucks watching films for the first time and in person.
Being able to see each other in person, yeah.
Yeah, that was a golden age of season 1.
That was.
No offense. I mean, I wasn't that involved in the rest of season 1, so I'm biased. But you can,
Right.
come on. I mean,
We'd always be like, right, Aaron, that's how he's done with the good bit, and then like you'd be back 2 months later because you were visiting, So like, it was fine. You were always still about.
I was still about executive producer. I had
Executive
nothing
producer.
to do with it. No.
Now you're back being co-host, right? You said that you like watching Tom Hanks, Andy. You've picked a great film to join us with this week
Yes.
on the Good Bit Pod. Me and Andrew were working together a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, right, okay, well, since we're doing this new season and stuff, we're getting different people on. Now is a perfect time to get Andrew on. And I was thinking, what film we're going to do, because the format we've been doing, Andy, is we're going back and forth, picking films to make each other watch. It can be films that we've never seen before, or it can be one of our favourites that we just want to talk about or whatever. And it can be from any genre, any year, anything like that. And a couple of weeks ago, Aaron had mentioned that he'd watched Saving Private Ryan, and I've never seen it before, and I was like, oh, that's one on my list. And I was thinking, I don't want to do it right now, though. Let's maybe go back to that in the future. I said, Aaron, could you maybe like rewatch Saving Private Ryan somewhat soon? And your response, Aaron, was a bit kind of like, I'm not putting myself through that trauma again anytime soon, because it's such a deep, heavy film. And I was like, what's he talking about? So I watched it this week, and I'm glad we're here talking about it here on The Good Bit. What did you think of Saving Private Ryan on your first viewing, Aaron?
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. I'll now have to think.
I know, I'm sorry, but
yeah, I wasn't going to watch it again, and now you two have watched it. You understand. Well, for one thing, it's long. It's a long film.
2 hours 50.
Like, geez, and it's got peaks and troughs. It's clearly a very well made film, but a lot of that 3 hours is guts and horrific things. But what did I think of it in general? Well, the reason I
hate that question. I hate that question. What did you think?
I'll sidestep it, as I always do. The reason I watched it was because, see, what I like about this is the films we're doing for the podcast kind of make me flow on to watch other films. So I watched Inception. So I watched Shutter Island because it had Leo in it, and it was the same year, released in the same year. And then because of the war aspect to Shutter Island, where he was visiting the Holocaust camp, I was like, oh yeah, the war. I want to watch a war film. And people
remember the war.
And people,
oh my god.
And people are comparing like the war years to like now, and I'm always like, geez, like that's a stretch. Like, I think we should remember what that was really like. And so I was like, I'll watch something to do with the war, World War II. Because it's kind of the same as horrors. I kind of have a morbid fascination with what it was actually like. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing to do with the politics of it, like nothing to do with the strategies and how it was won or lost. But what was it like on the front lines at the worst possible points? What
was life like for these people?
Yeah. And Saving Private Ryan definitely fulfilled that morbid fascination, because it I know it's obviously a classic film and I hadn't seen, so that gives you want to watch it. But it definitely puts you slap bang in the middle of the action and just kind of shows you as much as it can, what it would have been like had you been thrust into the front line during World War II. And it just it made me think, if I was, in the opening scene, if I was in that boat about to go and face that, I reckon I would have been one of those people who was just paralyzed with fear and couldn't do anything, because it's complete pot luck. It's pot luck that Tom Hanks' character survives throughout that whole film, because he's the main character. And of course, he's not going to get shot in the first scene. It's pot luck that all these generals are war heroes, and obviously they do amazing things, and you get shown that, but just picked off left, right, and center. You move 1 inch to the right, you're gone. That aspect of the film, I don't know. It's
No,
incredible.
I totally agree with you because you were saying you were watching, was it World War II in colour or something on Netflix?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
And it's like, I think I've raised that point on the Blair Witch episode where it's like, it's just fascinating seeing actual footage of what life was like from like past generations and stuff. So this is a good example. And what I loved about Saving Private Ryan is that it looks like, it looks like a documentary, but it looks like it's so well done. Right, it's a Spielberg film, so the budget's obviously going to be massive. But you can tell the budget's massive because of how well everything is done, and it looks like this is what World War II looked like.
Yeah.
You know, Andrew, when I suggested Saving Private Ryan, you were quick to jump at it and you're saying yes, one of my favourite films. When did you first see it? What do you like about the film?
Oh, it must have been like 3-4 years ago, maybe.
Right.
And I remember just seeing it and going like, "Wow, this is amazing!" Like I loved it because obviously I love Tom Hanks and I really like Matt Damon as well. And and you hear all the things about like the opening scene and the war scene and the silence, and you hear all these cinematography references and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was just like, I'll give it a watch and I'll see what it's about. But yeah, I think what you are saying, it really captured the war. It really captured what those people are like in the front line straight from the offset. As soon as it cuts into the war, and it just doesn't hold back. And I think it just continues and continues. But the thing that I like about it, I think it just has real moments of sincerity and characters that you can really identify with. Mm-hmm. And I think what Aaron's saying, it's like a bit of Russian roulette. Like, you don't know who's going to live, you don't know who's going to die. Like, you're seeing people dying all around, but then quite quickly into it, they kill off one of the characters that you think is going to go on this expedition.
Yeah.
And then another one's away as well, and you're like, actually, who's safe here? And you see the impact that has on the other characters, and as the group formations and dynamics change and they meet up with new people, it's just like I like the dynamics of it, and that's the thing. Like, I really like the characters, and it's quite character driven.
Yep. Absolutely. I was actually getting worried at first that there was so many characters, and I was like, are you supposed to, like, I know it's a long film, but are we going to get to the point where we know all their names and we know all their backstories and we're going to care so much about them all to the point where I knew some of them are going to die because it's a war film, but like, I wondered how much I would care about them if they died. And then it gets to the point where it's not really like this really emotional moment when they die, but you're kind of taken aback because you're like, you just didn't expect it to happen straight away, or you didn't expect it to happen at this moment. And it's funny to see, as you say, how they all react to it, because like, these aren't their friends or whatever, they're not best friends, but it's like people who, it's like work colleagues, it's people that you're there at work with.
Yeah.
And you're like literally fighting for your life for. So I found that really interesting and really nice seeing them all being there and having that kind of banter as being like, we are fighting together and stuff, and we're guys and this is what we do and stuff. So all that was really, really real.
And I think you're right.
I
think the hard hitting parts wasn't like when they died, it was when they referenced the deaths like later on. It was like you didn't really see their reaction, but like when it comes to like Ryan, it's like fucking people have died for you. Like people that we were right beside, like your brothers in arms, we've fucking risked your lives for you. And you're like, oh shit, that's right. Like, people have actually died.
I mean, the film starts with Private Ryan, current day, going to see the battlefields and seeing all the crosses and stuff that are there to pay tribute to them. And at first, you're not really sure who it is, obviously, because they learn about it later on. But even that is so moving and powerful, that moment where he's just walking through all the graves and seeing all of his friends, and then you obviously get the massive flashback and stuff. But I thought that was so nice, and then it goes back to it at the end. I mean, how that would affect you and how that would affect your mental state when you're going forward and you're thinking about all these people that you knew that are dead because of a war you were all fighting. I just can't imagine. And we'd all be, I mean, look at us. We'd all be sent away to fight and try and survive. I don't know how I'd be. I'd probably just run and see what happened.
I don't think very much of myself. So I would imagine that I would have found some way to swindle my way out of it.
Really?
I don't know. I just know that I would be demolished within the first 3 seconds of fighting. I know that. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But I'm not very strong, courageous, or even good with a gun. I played paintball once for my mate's 16th birthday and had the worst time of my life. So to think of myself back if I was alive in that time, like I don't know. And I was also thinking, like you said, what happens, how do you recover from that? And I was thinking about all the people who survived. And when you're watching this film, you realize how invested these people are in their job. It's their job. They're soldiers. They're fighting a war. They're doing unspeakable things to the other side, as well as unspeakable things being done to them. How do they go back to society after that? Like, I think we talked about, we did Midnight in Paris, this film, which was about Paris in the 1920s. And one of the reasons they talked about, I was researching the film afterwards, and they were talking about World War One veterans who were American. They fought in the war, they survived, they returned to an America that they didn't recognize, that was now really consumerist and not really romantic and didn't really talk about emotions. And they'd been through this horrific thing and they just didn't know how to integrate back into society. So a lot of them went to Paris, artists like Hemingway and like these writers, because Paris was still, I'm putting it in simple terms here, but they thought Paris was still, romantic, and you could express your feelings and you could be yourself and talk about real things. And that's what the film Midnight in Paris is all about. Which, well, one of the aspects of the film, it was like interesting to me, like, how do you return to the country you left?
Yeah,
and
it's not even the same. It's not even the same place,
and it wouldn't be the same thing. Like, these wars were years long, and like, you come back to this country that is, you don't recognize it anymore, and you've just been killing people left, right, and center, and you're expected to now be a family man and have a wife and kids and 9 to 5. Impossible.
Yeah, and it's about everything becoming desensitized now, right?
Yeah.
Like, so at first, when you go to war, you're thinking, like you were just saying, when you're on that boat ride, I mean, I'm sure that's not their first battle, but like, say it was, right? You're sitting there going, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? And what is about to happen here? You probably couldn't even pull yourself together and get through it. Whereas at that stage, when they're doing it, they're just shooting folk left, right, and center and stuff, that's just normal to them now.
Yeah.
So, like, another example of that is when they find the wrong Private Ryan, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, by the way, and so well done. It's really tough for Tom Hanks' character to tell him that his brothers have died. Like, he's struggling to verbalize it. He's struggling to tell him. The reaction, the guy gets all emotional and stuff, and even that affects Tom Hanks. And then when you realise that it's the wrong guy, the relief is like, oh my God, like, okay, fine, they need to go and find and go and tell the real one or whatever. Then when an hour later in the film, they go and they meet Matt Damon, they meet the real Private Ryan, and they tell him in like 2 seconds, because they're desensitized to it. Now it's no big deal. Yeah, your family's dead. Like, they just told him. And Matt Damon's brilliant as well with his reaction stuff. I think Matt Damon's quite underrated sometimes. He's a big name. But see, when it comes to some of these roles, I think he's really good. What an amazing cast, by the way. I had no idea the cast was so big. I suppose it had to be for a film like this. But people like Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Edward Burns, Vin Diesel, and just Jeremy Davis, and all people that I'd kind of heard of before and stuff. And like, they all have their own wee personalities, their own backgrounds and stuff.
Even like Bryan Cranston makes an appearance in it as well.
Bryan Cranston, I had to like really double take. I wasn't even sure if it was him. But it was nice to see Bryan Cranston. Did you
like? It was nice to see him.
I was going to say, like, is that good to see Bryan again? Yeah, not seen him in a while.
Nice to see Walter White. What did you make of Tom Hanks then as Captain Miller, your main man? Andy, you're a big fan of Tom Hanks, as we all are. I could watch Tom Hanks read the phone book and be entertained. How was he in this film for you?
Oh, I just love him, man. I just find him so gripping to watch. I just feel like he's so in it, and he's so believable in any character that he plays, and he just takes on that physicality and personality. Like, I just find him even, again, just watching it last night. Again, I'm just watching just the nuances of his performance, and when he's looking away, and when that thing with the hand, which never comes to a conclusion. Like, they never bring it back up. Like, it's just this thing that's always there. And I think that's the thing with the film. I think there's so many wee points throughout different characters' journeys that you're seeing that just make it so good. But yeah, I just think Tom Hanks is the captain, is the leader. He is that sort of father figure, and being the school teacher, and he just lets them be until he needs to step in, and then he has that amazing monologue where he just steps in and he's like, what's the bounty then, what he's up to? Like, he knows what's happening, he knows the boys, and he gets those moments of real sincerity with them where he sits down and he opens up a wee bit, and especially with Matt Damon, I feel like they two have quite a nice relationship as well. The both of them, like there is like a father-son kind of relationship there, even though they only meet each other for probably like 20 minutes of the film,
Right.
like half an hour. There's just that, no, I'm protecting you, like, and you get it that it's his orders, but you also get there's a wee bit more to it. I would say that it's not just his orders, like there's a connection there. I don't know what it is, but
Aye, it's like a fatherly thing, which is weird. It's because like Private Ryan's been in his head this whole time. You know, he doesn't know him yet, but he's so destined to get him because this horrible thing that's happened, and he can, you know, it's this mission that he's got, and to make sure that he gets home safe and stuff. It's that thought of like Ryan's mum. You know what I mean? Like the thought of the devastation. He can't handle that because he's a really good guy. I thought was really good. And have you ever seen Captain Phillips?
I actually haven't. No.
It's a good one.
No, it made me want to watch. Oh, wait a minute, Captain Phillips, is that the pirate one?
Yeah.
Oh,
on the boat.
Yes, I have. Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Oh, you should watch that.
And another captain, Tom Hanks doing another captain,
Yes.
totally different captain, one on water. We should ask Tom about that. But like he's just a great leader.
Yeah,
Tom Hanks.
he's a leader of men.
And
I think he gives off that
film he's in,
persona that he's just in control. You know, like he's just one of those people. And I think you'll all know people in your life, like you just look at them and they just have that persona, like no matter what's happening, like they're just in control. And it's that weird thing that certain people have. And I think it's part of it's like his stature, his weight. He looks a wee bit older. Like he just looks as if he's in control. Doesn't matter like if like throughout the whole film, it's just like, oh, don't worry, like Tom's there. Like the captain's there. He'll deal with it.
I mean, the other soldiers and stuff, they have issues with him and stuff. They pull him up on things and stuff like that. But it's like when he's not there and when he's not with them, they all feel a bit less safe. You know what I mean? They wouldn't admit that until, you know, the worst happens at the end. But like, I just think that's all down to him, and he's such a good performer. He's so gripping. We talk about DiCaprio all the time being like so watchable, but Tom Hanks is right up there as well for me, I think, anyway. I don't know about you, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of these performers that's hard to appreciate sometimes because he's just a very good leading man. And leading men aren't necessarily, you know, the standout characters of films, you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I get what you're both saying. It can I think you can underappreciate leading men quite a lot. It's a lot harder than it looks. Yeah, I totally.
And when you just look at like the list of his films, you're just like for me, it's just like Forrest Gump, Castaway, Saving Private Ryan, The Green Mile, Big, Da Vinci Code. Like to me, it's just like classic.
And all these films have rested on his shoulders for a period of time. Like they've been the Tom Hanks film, and he may not have directed them, but like, you know, he's made those films of. He has been the leading man. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
a Tom Hanks film.
It's a Tom Hanks film.
Yeah, especially in Castaway, it is literally
that was
a Tom Hanks film. And
I
Wilson.
watched Castaway, and Wilson, of course. I watched Castaway for the first time right at the start of the first lockdown because I was like, everyone's talking about, oh, this is going to be like Castaway, and I was like, I want to see what it's all about, and it was so good. I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite films that like I'd watched for the first time in 2020, and one we should probably do for the good bit. I think that's a good shout. If we do Castaway, I think it's a good film for that. You ever seen it, Aaron?
I haven't.
I think you'd like it. It's good.
Yeah, it's good, man.
It is good. I noted down on my trusty notepad here that I think it's a film made for the cinema. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's
you're
great
right.
watching it at home, and you know you've got your luxuries and stuff. Like you're watching, you're going, well, they're out fighting, and that's war, and my life is this, and I'm much more comfortable here. But like sitting in that cinema when like you've got the whole surround sound and the lights are out,
4DX.
4DX.
Yes.
Imagine that, God, you'd be battered. You'd be walking out
3
limping.
hours. You'd pull a.
You'd be dizzy.
Yeah.
Or you'd be seasick in this one. Sorry. And yeah, just in terms of like the big screen and stuff, I just think it's a total film made for the cinema. And then I thought, when's the last time I said that about a film? And it was 1917. And I was like, ironically back then,
So
ironically, another war film. And then I was like, when before that? Dunkirk, another war film.
Yeah.
So it's like these recent films, obviously Saving Private Ryan was 98, but like films I can remember seeing in the cinema, I was like, I'm so glad I've seen this in the cinema because it's such an amazing experience. And it's another great film, another example of a film that I'd love to go back and see on the big screen, you know?
But I think Saving Private Ryan paved the way for some of the concepts and some of the things that we see in Dunkirk in like 1917. Like looking at Dunkirk, like the opening sequence, from what I remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it was just silence again.
Yep.
Like, and there was just no talking, and it was just that absolute eerie silence while it looked through all the streets and stuff like that. And I was like, it just reminded me of like the concept of them going into, but I know it's different to what it is in Saving Private Ryan because it's all like action and stuff like that, and that was coupled with peace. But I was just like, it's the same kind of concept. And at one point during that action in Saving Private Ryan, it's just following Tom Hanks, and the camera is just panning through and it's following. And it reminded me of like George Mackay's scene in 1917 where he's just doing that absolute like 100-meter sprint, and the camera, everyone's just, and I was just like, yeah, I think like Saving Private, obviously it was 1998, like I was just born.
Yeah,
and I'm like that
fresh out the womb.
Yes. And I'm like, I don't have much reference to war films previously, but I think it would have been such a masterpiece, and such this, it's so well made that I think it's paved the way for many after it, and it's been kind of revolutionary back in the day. I don't know if that's true. That could have easily Saving Private Ryan could have been copied right off something else. But for me, I can't.
No, I know, but I know what you mean though. Like in terms of the budget and the effects and stuff, like it's one of the best I've seen. And this is 1998. You know, this is 23 years ago. So it's nuts. It's so well made. It's so well done, and it's like with the camera being like handheld sometimes, and it's just right there and then in the battlefield. And that scene you're talking about in 1917. Is back to what Aaron's saying about potluck, because you're watching the character run through the battlefield and you're just sitting there going, oh my God, like that's, and it's the same here. You have no idea what's going to happen because anything could happen at any moment, you know, and that's what makes a good war film. And I was thinking, what's the greatest war film of all time? What is it? Because how do you make, I think it's hard to make a good war film.
The Boy in the Striped
Pajamas.
You know what I mean?
It needs to be, Boy in the Striped Pajamas is a great film. But remember me and Adam were watching the end scene or something at my dinner table one time. I have this memory in my head of you showing me this scene at the end of.
I think maybe you hadn't seen it, and I was like, and you're like,
I've definitely seen it, but
had you? Oh well,
maybe I just didn't remember it or something.
You didn't remember it or something, and I was like, yeah, let's watch it.
You're like, this will break you, and I was like, that's what I want for a Tuesday. But yeah, so many good. So I was thinking like 1917 and Dunkirk, but they're modern ones. So you go back to like Full Metal Jacket and stuff, and like
not seen that.
Full Metal Jacket isn't
that Mason's favorite film?
Yeah,
there's a shout out.
Yeah,
I feel like
we should get him on.
Am I correct? Is that was Mason's favorite film? He went out.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Full Metal Jacket's like two different films. The one movie, it's like two different parts, and the second one is a lot like Saving Private Ryan. I thought, but I think you would like Full Metal Jacket. It's a bit more gruesome, I think, than Saving Private Ryan.
A bit more gruesome.
I think so, yes.
Oh, well then. I'll have to give it a go.
I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said anything. I've let it. Like,
have you seen Hacksaw Ridge?
Yes.
Love that film.
That's another great war film.
I think the thing is, I think Hacksaw Ridge was the first war film like Saving Private Ryan that I'd ever seen. The first war film that sort of really puts you there and just goes, no filter. This is what it was like. People's heads getting blown. This is it.
Yeah.
So that film probably had more of an effect on me than Saving Private Ryan did because I saw it first. But now, you look at the dates and it's like, well, this film, this Spielberg film, paved the way, and it's clearly, has a lot over Hacksaw Ridge. But yes, I remember Hacksaw Ridge making a big impact on me because it was the first war film that I was like, oh wow,
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great film. I love Hacksaw Ridge, and I when it first came out and I first saw it, I was like adding that to my list now of like ones that I want to watch again or talk about or whatever, even buy on like DVD or Blu-ray or something, because I was like, I want to have that film somewhere because it's so good. But then you look at like Saving Private Ryan and Full Metal Jacket since then, I'm like, these are, I don't know if they're better, but they're kind of like, maybe they had bigger budgets and stuff. But they're more epic, yeah. They're more like you're there in it, Like the shot of like the camera bobbing in the water, and the water's like red because of all the blood and stuff. It reminded me of Jaws,
Yeah.
And I was like, anything Jaws is going to cheer me up. But I certainly wasn't cheered up by the end of the film. So if you're listening this far on and you've not heard about what happens in the film yet, Tom Hanks is dead.
Everyone's dead.
Everyone's dead.
Apart from Ryan.
Matt Damon. Apart from Ryan, his saviour himself. What did you make of the ending of the film? The twist, I guess, of Tom Hanks' character dying. I guess it's a twist. I don't know. Is it a twist for a war film for the main guy to die? I don't know.
It didn't feel like a twist.
No, I wasn't like, oh my god. I was like, oh yeah.
No, it wasn't it kind of happened slowly, didn't it? Like he was hit once, and you go, "Oh, is he dead?" And it's hit twice. It's like, "Oh," and then he dies.
I think it happens a couple of times when characters get shot. I think a lot of times you go, "Oh, this could be really bad." You don't know if they're going to get saved or not.
You don't know. It's like, where was he shot? Was it the shoulder? Is he all right? Oh no, maybe not.
Yeah,
I thought it was quite undramatic. Like I was
exactly
expecting it to be like, like the music kicks in straight away and like the camera pans right up to him and slow-mo, and like it was just like you see him going to get this grenade or whatever it is, and then he's just like shot, and then it goes to like another few scenes, and then it comes back, and then you realise, oh, like it's
he's
a wee
dead,
bit serious, and
he's lying there, and then
because there's so much chaos. There's so much chaos at that particular point in the film that you're not wholly concentrating on his death. You're like, yeah, but is he dead now? But then you've got the Germans, and what about Ryan? And everyone else is dead, and Tom Hanks is also dead.
And
yes,
it kind of seems pointless. Like he doesn't get how like usually it's like they go,
he saves
the grenade, they do that throw, and they kill every single German, but he dies. Like it's like he went to get the grenade, he never even got it, and he got shot. It's like, mate, what are you doing? Like, if you're gonna do it, at least get the grenade. Like, so it was like he's kind of just went and disobeyed orders for the people that are like, that's a suicide thing, and he's just like, meh.
Yeah, I'm Tom Hanks.
It was quite realistic, and that's what I liked about it as well. Like that, like your judgment would be clouded. There's so much going on, that hero complex, and it's just like, so no complaints on how they done it. I was just a bit like, realistic, and
something a bit more epic.
Yeah, a bit more dramatic, like a crescendo straight into like this is it is a twist, it's a turning point, but they just treated it as
another
the
death.
rest of the film. Yeah,
another death. Absolutely. Maybe that was the point, though. Maybe it was like so many people just die.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like even Tom Hanks, Captain Miller is his character's name. Like even the captain can just die. That's how dangerous everything was. I don't know.
But I suppose they build up to that moment when he speaks to Matt Damon. Like the death, kind of then like he's prolonging, and then what is it? He says, "Earn it" or something like
earn it. That's right.
Earn this, and then obviously that continues a couple of minutes later when it cuts back to Matt Damon in front of the grave, and he's like, "Oh, not Matt Damon, Matt Damon's character," and he's like, "Did I earn it? Try earn it?" And you're like, "Oh, that's nice. That's cute."
Shows you how much it means to them all as well, and how lucky he is to still be alive. What did you make of Matt Damon then? Because he's the centre character, really, but he doesn't appear till the last third.
Well, you see, his performance is fine. It's good.
Yeah.
My one issue with the film, and I guess it's kind of a big issue, is that I personally didn't buy into the mission. I didn't quite get why. Because it sets up in the opening sort of scenes, they're like, this mother has lost 3 of her sons. There's 1 left. There's so much horrific things going on. We need to do this. We need to send this great battalion to go get him. And I was kind of like, after watching the opening scene, of all those men, all those boys, thousands getting shot, killed instantly, and you're going to risk more to save another one for this woman? I know it's sort of American and sort of like, we need to save 1 more, but I didn't buy into it. I was like,
right,
but all these, they're all dying, all of them, and we're going to risk more, 8 more for one mother. Look at, but what all these other mothers? What about the beach? No, but see the beach. That is, there's a mother for every single one of those dead men on the beach. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy the mission.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And it's like 3 men, if you look at it, died on that mission. 3 of the 8 died for what, this mother to get 1 guy back. What if they were all single? Like, what if they were the only child of that mother? Like, the mother's lost 100% of her children. That other one's only lost, like, what, 75%? Like, if we're playing a percentage games here, let's look at the maths.
He didn't even need saved. He was going to stay. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, that's
So they end
makes it
up
quite frustrating, doesn't it?
fighting alongside him because he's not going to leave, and then they all die, apart from him. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Never thought about it like that. What about Corporal Upham? Jeremy Davis's character. I quite liked him, even though he was a shite bag.
I can't picture who you're talking about.
Guy that's gets recruited, who is like the scaredy
Multilingual.
cat. Yeah, guy speaks German and French, and
Yes.
Never held a
he's kinda
gun
like
since
the-
basic training and kind of.
Yeah, well,
something about his character I liked, and I think it was the innocence of the character I liked. But he is frustrating as a character.
he is
You know what I mean?
frustrating.
You're like, go do it.
He's not the most likable, but I personally knew that would be me. And I totally, when he's like, you're frustrated at him and he's in that heat of the battle towards the end of the film and he's crouching on the staircase, clutching the gun, just not doing anything. And he could have saved his mate, but he's just not doing anything. Paralyzed. I was like, I imagine I would probably be like that. If I was put there,
it would remind me never to go to war with you then, because I could be in a horrendous dire
I
straits.
think
and you're
you'd
just
be like
standing
that
on
as
the-
well. You'd be that as well, Chris.
A good chance I'd probably be like that, but we could be like that together.
I'd say
Andrew
so.
would be Ryan.
I'm not leaving.
But just on that, Aaron, like what you were saying as well about showing like the real life of him, and like I felt like his journey was like one that I was really interested in because he's clutching that gun like he's terrified, and the German just looks at him and just goes, "You're pathetic, man," and just like walks out. And then he's the one standing with a gun in front of all the Germans who surrendered, and he just shoots the guy. And
Yeah.
you're like, he's shooting
Where
him
was that?
because he knows that he's like, man, like that's guilt. For me, he's shot him out of guilt. Like the guy who's absolute scared can't do it while they're actually fighting him, and now he's like as if like trying to prove to himself like I can do this, or he just shoots the guy that surrendered, and we know that that's against the rules from previous in the film because they're now prisoners of war and stuff. And he
Right.
was the one that had advocated to let the other man go when they had caught him. Remember, he dug the grave and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
He was the
Forgot
one
about
that
yeah.
advocated, and he's like, let him go. Like, this is wrong, Captain. Let him go. Let him go. And then he's standing with this person that surrendered, and he just shoots him.
On
And
the
I was
spot.
like, you have went a journey, my man. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that shows the real reality. It's like, do you know what? Like, the amount of stress, anxiety, pressure, fear, like the psychology behind that man and what he's experienced over that last however long that mission lasted, from sitting at a desk to then
Killing someone
wanting to set
point
up-
blank.
Yeah.
But that is a weird, also that moment on the staircase, like when that German guy who's just plunged the knife into the American guy in a horrific way, like look into his eyes. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
also a
brutal.
weird moment of like humanity when he passes the guy on the stairs, his enemy who he should kill, and doesn't, because he knows that, well, he's not
There's
going
no
to
danger.
kill me. And and at the end of the day, these men, they're not fighting each other. They're fighting someone else's war. And that was that moment made for me. It's like if he doesn't need to kill him, he won't kill him.
Right. It shows that these people are like, well, obviously not in the film, but when it was war, these
Yeah.
are just real people. They're just like,
Well,
they've been sent for a mission.
I suppose, I don't know. It's weird. It's complicated, the whole Germany thing. Like it's obviously not as simple as Hitler was a bad man, and then he suddenly just got an army to fight for him. But
Yeah.
like, they're just people in the end. They're not
Right.
necessarily completely tied to
Evil or
the
whatever. yeah.
ideologies of the country. They're just doing their job. That's what that moment meant to
Yeah,
me.
it's a massive moment. Well, we wrap things up here. Let's think about where we are placing Saving Private Ryan
Oh yes.
in the Good Bit kitchen. Please explain to Andy what the kitchen is.
Are you aware of the kitchen?
A kitchen, yeah. I usually cook my dinner in there.
But the kitchen.
No, I wouldn't say that I'm overly familiar with
Okay.
the kitchen.
I'll try and explain it reasonably quick. Basically, Top Gear, the cool wall,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
rank things. It's essentially that, but it's a kitchen. So
Ranking system.
we've got 5 ranks for films because we're tired of doing like numbers. What is it out of 10? It's a boring system. Bin, Kitchen bin. Don't like the film? Toss it in the bin. It's the worst place to put it. George Foreman. Give it a good grilling. You didn't like it. You're not going to toss it away, but it needs grilling. Kitchen table. Don't know what to do with it. Don't know where to put it. Just kitchen table. I'll leave it there for a minute.
It's not good or bad. It's just very in the middle. Don't really know how I feel.
Exactly.
It's good, fine, but it's not particularly great that it's on the table.
Fridge. This is a good film. I want to keep this for later and preserve it. I'm putting it in the fridge. Freezer. This film altered the course of my life so greatly that I must store it in this freezer and keep it forever so I may watch it until the day I die.
Wow.
That's your ranking system.
Wow.
So now we ask Andrew, because he's the guest, where do you place Saving Private Ryan?
Oh, I think I would need to place it on the fridge.
On the fridge or in the fridge?
On the fridge. I was thinking more like I've got a certificate from school, like a place with the magnet on the fridge. But
that's a brand new place in the ranking. On the fridge.
We've talked about that before, though. We went, okay, top shelf, right at the back of the fridge, on the door of the fridge. We can now have it like, okay, it's like a certificate. It's on the front of the fridge. We want to display it proudly. Listen, when I said Saving Private Ryan, you said it's one of your favourite films of all time. I think that's freezer territory, if I'm honest.
Think about it.
No, because with the way Aaron explained it, and I said I'm not overly familiar, and I knew it was a ranking system, but I just wanted to define each concept. And for me, the freezer, is it a film that I would watch continuously? It's absolutely not a film that I would watch continuously. But,
I get you.
You know what I mean? I'd leave it in the fridge. I'd bring it out every now and again, but no. Would I watch continuously? Would I watch it every year? No, I'll probably not watch it for another 10 years. So
10 years?
I love that
I've got
time
a lot
scale.
of yeah. I've wrote it in my diary.
Because like sometimes if it's in the freezer, then it's like sometimes kind of one of those people that's like, I'm going to watch this every day of the week, twice on Sunday. Like it's one of those like favourite films.
Twice on Sunday.
But listen, a favourite film doesn't need to be one that you're going to watch over and over and over and over again. A favourite film could like send you into a deep state of depression, but you don't want to have that all the time. But it's just a really good film. So I think I'm going to agree with Andy and put it also in the fridge. Sorry.
I agree with you both wholeheartedly. Fridge it is. On the fridge. Like a magnet.
So on the fridge, yes.
Well, but then it'll
with
go off.
all of them.
It'll go off though. So you'll have to keep it in the fridge sometimes because you want to use it in 10 years.
It's 10 years because it's going to need to be. It's a fridge for life.
Back of the fridge where it gets a bit icy.
Yeah,
keep it in the back of the fridge. It's nice and cool in there.
It's one of these things that you take out the back of the fridge and you go, oh shit, it's kind of nice. Here we go.
Yeah, it's put in the wee freezer at the top of the fridge. You know how you get the mini freezers, so it's still in the fridge. It's in the freezer part of the fridge.
Exactly.
It's in the fridge freezer. Right. Until next time.
I hope that's perfectly clear for everyone at home.
It's going in the fridge because it's so cool. Well, this has been a very cool episode. I can't believe that's been an hour, by the way. That's absolutely flown by. And I feel like, I don't know about you, Aaron, right? Maybe it's the fact we've got Andrew here. I think in terms of like talking about the film,
the most we've ever...
Yeah. Usually we talk nonsense. This has actually been, and I'd like to thank Andrew for his great analysis.
You've brought out the best in us. That was the most in-depth analysis we've ever done on a film on this film podcast.
I came prepared with my notes, guys,
Yeah, honestly. Deepest we ever went.
Please, keep watching films, Andrew, and then we're going to keep doing this like revolving door of people coming on. So please jump on again. We'd love to chat some more. Maybe a film you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Because we like doing that as well. And it's like totally
next time, the way we want to do it ideally is that the guest chooses, and this didn't work out because of timings and etc. But next time, you can choose.
Oh yeah, I'll get you. Yeah. We'll do a musical one. You know how I am.
Yes.
Okay. We've not done a musical yet.
We haven't done a musical
yet. No, that sounds good.
You've done High School Musical before.
Yeah, but this is a new regime.
I know this is the new golden age.
Yeah, the new season.
So the new season, there's not been a musical. So
you know how sometimes when you move to like a new company, you just decide to pretend that all the companies before this didn't exist. That's what this is. Although it did happen and I have good memories of the good bit, those episodes right now, we're only talking about the new one. They're dead to me.
I don't get the
The new-
company analogy.
No, I don't either. I think you
No.
need to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nah, that was terrible.
Expunge on that.
That was
Expunge.
Edit that out.
that wasn't good. Cut that bit. I'll try and come up with another one. Okay.
Here we go.
You know how when you move to a new football team, you move to a new sporting team,
Sporting team.
you sometimes pretend that you didn't even play elsewhere.
I think that's a really poor analogy, Chris. If we get into your football ideologies, are we then saying that the past experiences of your accompanied
It's
do
like
no longer
right.
matter? Is that was going with, on your two previous analogies? Does that saying if a company reforms itself, then anything that the previous company done does no longer exist?
That's not what I was going. I was talking more about the player than the team.
it's
I
like
swear.
if you've got a new girlfriend, and
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
the-
Yeah.
to her when you're speaking about your love life,
Previous.
all those previous didn't happen. This
Yes,
is the main
Aaron.
one.
That is the analogy.
That's why Aaron is the
That's why I'm paid the
he's the
big bucks.
captain of this team. Yeah, he's the captain. He's the captain Miller of this team. That's it.
Listen, it's the highest pay
Ultimately
grade.
going to end up dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you meant that was an add-on into the analogy.
Disappears
All the
halfway through the
girlfriends-
season.
All the girlfriends are not real, and you're gonna end up dead. End of story.
You are dead to me. Right, thank you very much for listening, everybody. It's been another successful episode of the Good Bit Pod. Thank you to the lads for joining me again.
Lads.
And you can all please join me again here on the Good Bit Podcast going forward. You can get us on the social medias. Twitter and Instagram is at the Good Bit Pod. So until next time, from Aaron and from Andrew, we say to you, goodbye.
A little vocal break at the end. Goodbye.
We say
It was a bit emotional for Chris.
goodbye. This is, ladies and gents, this has been an emotional episode. We say to you, goodbye.